Today from Echuca. So Echuca's in north central Victoria, Australia, on the Murray River, right between New South Wales and Victoria. It's on the border. So for those who are overseas, the Murray River is the border between the two states of Victoria and New South. So today is the 9th of March 2024. We're kicking off today, and after our talks yesterday, I wanted to just say a little bit, because I've had a few people asking me questions about how I got involved with everything that we're doing, and what was the go, my history, why I'm doing this. So my history in agri-politics started. I'm a third generation dairy farmer, and we're not dairy farming anymore. Haven't done for quite a number of years now. It's been pretty ordinary. So in the mid 1980s, my parents actually got involved in what was happening with a lot of the banks, and a lot of the banks were unreasonably starting to foreclose on farmers, and they were doing things that were really quite illegal. And so my parents got involved with the groups of other people, and they formed a group called Bankwatch to start to protest and highlight the fact that the banks were actually breaking the law. And so that started to get going, and we were involved with the dairy blockades in the mid-80s, blockading some of the milk factories here in Victoria because of the fact that so many of the dairy farmers were getting ripped off with the prices and so on. It was just terrible. And in all that, I was around about 20, 21 at the time, and I started to get involved in the politics of things, although I didn't know much at that point, because I only had never had much to do with politics, and particularly in farming, as many people have today. And this is one of the things that we're trying to correct, is that many of our farmers, and everybody else for that matter, but many of our farmers specifically, have no interest in politics. They don't want to know about it, and they don't know anything about it. And that is a very, very serious problem, given that politics is the most important single factor to your farm, to your business, and that goes throughout every business in Australia, every industry. Politics is the most important factor by a million miles, and people don't want to know about it. So anyway, having said that, I started to look into a lot of the things that were happening, and we heard, quite a lot of the people back then, the what they call the conspiracy theorists and all this kind of thing. They were starting to spread information around on many of the things that were happening, and once you started to investigate and check out the things that they were saying, you started to realise very, very quickly that the things they were saying were actually real and were starting to happen. So that sparked my interest, and they talk about rabbit holes these days, but there's no rabbit holes back then. It was just, these are the facts. It doesn't matter which way you twist or turn around, these are the facts, and this is the way it goes. So got involved in quite a number of the farmer protests over the years, got involved in a number of other issues, heavily involved in the Aboriginal politics that was going on from my time was 1997. I really started taking interest in what was going on there, because it became obvious that a lot of what we were being told was just lies, absolute garbage. A lot of the objectives, so-called doing away with racial discrimination and all this kind of stuff, and trying to make Aboriginal people's lives better, what they said didn't add up. And in fact, I went down and met with the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs in Victoria, down at Parliament House in Melbourne, many, many years ago, and met with him and said basically, we're hearing all this rubbish about discrimination, doing away with racial discrimination, when in fact the rules that you want to bring in and the laws and legislation, actually they enhance racial discrimination. And, I said, you can't claim to be trying to do away with that when you're actually trying to bring it in. And at that point, the Aboriginal Aboriginal Affairs Minister in Melbourne, who was a very dishonourable Keith Hamilton, who turned out to be nothing more than a barefaced liar, as were his staff. And for those who don't know, he was a Labor Party minister in the Victorian government back in those days. They don't know why they call these people honourable anything, because most of them, the majority of them, they're just barefaced liars at the best of times. So they told me, and Keith Hamilton told me, that okay, there is discrimination in what they're doing. They are very, very upset, very angry. There is discrimination, but they like to call that positive discrimination. And that was a term I'd never heard, positive discrimination. Look, what the hell is this? So anyway, I had some interviews lined up to do with some of the TV stations back in those days, and anyway, Keith Hamilton ran away. He literally ran out of his own office. he did a runner. And so moving on from that, I started to work out that they're just liars. The politicians just barefaced lie to you. And you had to start to wonder, well, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? They're telling you one thing and doing the exact opposite. They lie to the public and then stitch the public up. So from that point on, it sort of became very, very important to me to say, well, these people are actually screwing us over. You know, they're actually stitching us up. What's going on with most of the politics is it's not honest, and they are screwing us over, and that really irritates me. I hate that, and I hate, you know, these people who, you know, they get into Parliament and they tell you they're going to do all these great things for you, and they just lie, and they do the exact opposite. And it doesn't matter who you talk to about politicians, they'll say the same thing. Oh, you know, they tell you this to get into power, and then when they do, they just lie and do the exact opposite. And that's a very sad indictment on the Australian people to just accept that. And that is pathetic, really. That is disgraceful. So, and us letting them get away with it is why they continue to do it, just frankly. And that's one of the reasons why we're in the business here of trying to fix this. So, having said that, I had a lot to do with the Aboriginal politics right over through 2000, after 2000, the so-called Aboriginal Reconciliation 2000. They brought the Sydney Olympics. The Olympics came to Sydney to highlight Aboriginal reconciliation, that's all garbage. This Aboriginal reconciliation is just a load of crap. And what that's turned out to be is just extremist politics where a handful of Aboriginal people are actually used. They are exploited by many of the global powers like the WEF and the UN, and they specifically talk about treaties and programs about, you know, Indigenous rights and so on. So that's all that's about. The Aboriginal people or the leadership or whoever, most of them have got their snout in the trough. We saw that with ATSIC, and now we're seeing it now with everything that's happening in that space, so-called voice and all these Indigenous cultural heritage crap that they're going on with. So that is nothing but a scam. And when we look into what's happening there, the average everyday Aboriginal people's lives are being destroyed. And all these programs and that, they're not designed to enhance Aboriginal people's lives. They're made to make them worse. And what they do, as with many things, they just get a big heap of money and a small handful of people who make out they're the leaders and who they can refer to. They pay them a fortune, and then they become the government's lapdogs, or the World Economic Forum, the UN's lapdogs. That's all they are. They're there to sell the policies where they actually destroy their own people. This has been proven time and time again. So at the end of the day, these are more and more things that have made it more important for me and my family to become involved in the politics and what we do. And as you go through this, and I've been doing this now since almost 40 years, and so it becomes more and more important, I think, for people to raise the issues and wave the flag and sound the alarm and let people who don't know become aware. Because at the end of the day, if you know something that's wrong, and it is absolutely crystal clear that things are wrong, and you don't say anything, then you're a part of the problem. And when, my experience and many, many years of doing this has given me a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And I'll speak about this a bit tomorrow with some of the things we talk about. But that experience and knowledge grows every day, and you work out that the old conspiracy theories are actually true. And, they talk about, there's no such thing as a one world government, or they're not trying to, take over the place or whatever. Well, yes, they are. And if you actually look into a huge amount of stuff, you can see many of the world leadership talk about it. They talk about a new world order. They talk about a one world government. So for people to sit there and say, I think it's all conspiracy theories, you've got to wonder where they're coming from. But anyway, to move along a bit, after the 2000s, I got heavily involved in the North-South pipeline issue in northern Victoria, was where the Victorian government wanted to put a pipeline in to take enormous amounts of irrigators' water, farmers' water, and take it to Melbourne for their water supply. And the problem with that, of course, is there were a huge number of other options for Melbourne's water. But the government was hell-bent on taking water from farmers. And in line with the conspiracy theories, which were actual facts, that I'd come across over the years, the plan to destroy our farming and our food production, this all adds to it. And when you look at look now, of which I've been trying to tell people for a long time, they're shutting down our farming sector. Our food production sector is being wiped out. This is the evidence, this is what we're seeing, and this is the result of a specific plan, and this is what's happening. So, after the North-South pipeline, and I must say that Plug the Pipe organisation had a big win. The Victorian government then, under a lying scumbag, I think, and it's my opinion, I think I can back that up pretty quickly and pretty well, who is a lying scumbag, is John Brumby, was the Premier at the time. He took over from Steve Bracks. The next election in, I think from memory, 2010, the Labor Party was in power, and the coalition, when they stood in election, the Plug the Pipe organisation, got one of our members into the seat of Seymour in Victoria, got rid of the Labor incumbent, and that was enough to change the government. So that happened. So Plug the Pipe, and from that point on, the North-South pipeline has never ever fired a shot. It's never been used. They've never taken irrigators' water, and that's a credit to all the people in Plug the Pipe, because that's a big win. That was going to cost enormously. That was going to take a huge amount of water out of farming and agriculture. That was a major shot in the heart of agriculture, and we beat them. We beat them. So when people say, what can you do? Oh, it's not much good. If we're determined and you've got the tactics and strategies and you're the people, we can beat them. And we've proven that. That's been proven without any doubt. So after the North-South pipeline, I moved on to the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, which was a million times worse than anything we'd seen in agriculture in Australia in terms of destroying our farmers. So the the Murray-Darling Basin Plan was complete and utter fraud. The whole thing was garbage. It's supposedly based on all this climate change crap, which is absolute fraud. They're lies, total lies, can be proven beyond any doubt. But they used the so-called climate change lies and all the environmental stuff as the reason to bring in the 2007 Water Act, which wiped out our farmers even more. It took an enormous amount of water, changed the industry, the market, the whole deal. And so once again, we've seen a whole heap of farmers go down the tubes. And once again, that's the intended purpose. So I've been involved in a lot of things, and you gain knowledge and you gain experience and you gain an understanding of what's what. And, you look back at these things and you say, well, this has to be stopped. And, there's some people who are engaged in it, involved in it, in the fight. And so you just go, this is so wrong. And so after a while, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan war was going on, I joined up with the Victorian Farmers Federation, and my family had been members of the Victorian Farmers Federation and UDV years and years before, members of the National Party here in Victoria, and I also was a young National, followed suit. Certainly not now, I can tell you that right now. But the progress from that is that you start to see the patterns, and you're starting to see the problems, and you start to see how government, working now for the World Economic Forum and UN, are deliberately implementing plans. And this is the main reason why I put in the effort I do, and with many other people, I must say. And these fights to try and save our farmers and to wake people up and get them on the same page, or the intelligent and correct page, this has cost my family enormously over the years. The cost has been catastrophic, but you still do this. I look at, when we look at World War One, you had young blokes in Australia who lied about how old they were just for an opportunity to get into the war, fight for Australia, and go and, like I keep saying, our Anzacs, young blokes went over there and they charged machine guns, heavy machine gun fire, they charged heavy artillery, and many of them died on the battlefield, got enormous catastrophic wounds, but they still did that, and they went for it, and they fought for Australia. And I think in the shadow of that, we must do anything we possibly can, because not only was their bravery that level, but we are in the business now of willfully throwing everything that they died for away. They gave us a country that was safe, it was prosperous, you could bring up families, you could make money, you could do anything you want, it was free. That's what they gave us. We had democracy and safety, and now the Australians of today are flat out throwing all that away, giving all that away as fast as they possibly can, and many of them don't even realise they're doing it, but they need to understand this is a situation, because we talk to many, many people who have come from like Eastern European bloc, the communist countries over there, who are absolutely horrified because they came to Australia to get rid of this stuff, this communism and socialism and all this other kind of shocking stuff. And they came to Australia, and now they're saying, this is coming to Australia and you are just allowing it to happen. And if people could talk to some of these people who escaped those countries and find out what communism and socialism, totalitarianism, all this is actually all about. This is fascism. These are the world terrorists. This stuff, they kill you. They don't care about you. You mean nothing to them. So this is part of the education that I try and do, and try and get the people to understand of what happens and what's going on and what's coming. So, we also, and we continue the fight against the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, because right now, today, in March 2024, the federal government is trying to come back and take another 450 gigs of water from the irrigation system from farmers, which for those who may not know is enormous. That's massive amounts of water, and it's going to send more farmers and more towns and more communities and industries bankrupt. And that is its purpose. So with all these things, and we see the trauma and the people who are suffering, we see the industries going down, the communities, the people, the farmers, the food security for Australia is being destroyed. That's some of the reasons why I do what I do, and the people around me do what they do. This is not just me. We've got some amazing people who are in this fight, and we are going for it. And, you know, part of what we need to do is bring people together to fight together and understand the big picture stuff, because this is what it's about. It is big picture stuff. And it's the sort of thing that we can beat. It is the sort of stuff that we can defeat. But we just need to get enough people to accept that the facts are actually the facts. The data is the data, and the truth is the truth. We'll talk about a lot of these other things very soon, but I just wanted to move on to say that, you know, not only at the minute do we have issues with water here, agriculture is a specific target of the World Economic Forum and the UN. They are in the business of wiping out farmers and our food production and our food security. That is absolutely what they are doing. This is what they're doing. So I'll just chuck in quickly there. We've got a couple of comments from Sandra watching from the West Wimmera. So it's really, really great. Actually, I'll just say this now. I asked people yesterday if they could share whereabouts they're coming from. Jesse's from Northern Victoria. Beautiful. Thanks, Jesse. If we can get people to just say where their location is, that's really, I thought it was fantastic last night. And we do try to get back to people and reply and comment and so on. There's a hell of a lot going on, and that's very time consuming. But Shazza from Katunga in Vic, beautiful. Jenny from Minden in Queensland, look at you people go. Beautiful. Fantastic. And that's really good to see where we're going and to be able to monitor the locations. I really, really love that. That's great. Thank you. And as I said, we do the best we can to try and get Roscoe Lower New South, beautiful. York Peninsula, Victoria, excellent. This is great. Oh, this is terrific, you know, and everybody who's watching will be able to see our spread as well. So that is really fantastic. We do the best we can, but you quite often are very, very short on time. I think last night I finished replying to some of these things at about 3 a.m. this morning. So Judy from Tatura in Victoria, excellent. Marie Perillo from Sydney, great, thank you. Lisa, New South Wales, look at it. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. It's great. So one of the big issues that Australia is facing right now, and it's going to be a very serious one, other than, and I'll probably talk about these just briefly, but everything that's happening in Australia, for those who don't know, we had a referendum on the Voice just back in October, November. And so that failed, thankfully and luckily. Jill from Kundrook. G'day, Jill. And so, but what the state governments have been doing is building in a lot of this other cultural heritage crap. And what that is they're making out that they're bringing in rules and regulations and laws and all sorts of other things that give Aboriginal land councils, which are nothing more than UN and WEF stooges, and so most of them are, put it that way. Like, I know quite a number of Aboriginal people, and some of them are good people, and they're in the fight for the right reasons, and they do care about their people, but many of them are just nothing more than WEF and UN stooges, and they're there to bring in their policies of shutting down agriculture, shutting down your homes, your land, and everything else that you're allowed to do, shutting down industry, water supplies. This is real. This is very real, and you need to understand this. So we're seeing all this starting to manifest or infest the situation now right across Australia. And here in Victoria, we've had 10 shires in Victoria have been forced by the Victorian scumbag government, low-life parasites, to sign up to these agreements that start to recognise and give Aboriginal land councils enormous power, out-of-control power. The sort of stuff that they will take over shires, they'll take over the authority of shires, and they'll be able to shut down you, your land, your farm, your house, your backyard, anything at all. And this is very real. The evidence is there, and we'll talk about this later in detail. But these issues are why we fight the fight. That's why so many people do. There's a lot of groups and organisations around that fight this fight. And this is a part of my story and why I do this. So I don't want my kids to grow up with their kids, my grandkids, in a situation that is literally a prison camp. And the reality is that if we don't fight this fight and win it, then my kids and their kids and yours, don't matter whether you like what I'm saying or not, the facts are the facts, they won't be growing up at all. And this is the plan. This is the bottom line. This is where all this is leading to. So we're seeing enormous, catastrophic attacks on the people throughout the world. And these lowlifes who your governments work for and your politicians, most of them, that's what their plan is. And that's why we fight this fight. That's why we need as many people on board as we can get. That's why we need as much help as we can get. We're seeing other things coming up like, and they've almost got this stuff across the line, the digital currency within Australia and the digital identification, the misinformation laws. The governments are the ones who are the liars. They are the ones who need misinformation laws, and your media, most of your mainstream media. The digital ID and currency will all work towards the smart cities. And it will also work towards, and I want to say this specifically about digital currency, and this will become something that we talk about a little bit later too, when we start talking about the agricultural stuff very soon, is that the digital currency, for those who actually take any notice, Jim Chalmers, the Australian Treasurer, last year talked about we're going to have a digital currency and it will be a programmable digital currency. Now everybody needs to very seriously look at programmable, what that means. And what that means, and I'll say, you get many people who say, oh well, a digital currency, it's all about control. So they can control you. And we need to actually deal with specifically what that means. And we'll do that again very soon, as I said. But the basis of it is they get to use your digital currency once there's no more cash and all you've got is a card or a phone or something stuck in your arm or whatever. They, for whatever reason they want, and that reason is very bad, trust me, they will be bad. And they use that digital currency to shut down your life and to end your life, period. Your life, your kids, your grandkids, your family, the whole deal. So we need to understand how very, very serious this is. And, for those of us who actually do care enough to look and find out and see, right? And the other people who are just wandering around in some kind of daze or whatever, things are coming and it's not good. And, the shock to you when you finally realise. It's not a case of when this happens because it's slowly been happening and implemented for quite a long time. But when the penny drops for you, the light bulb comes on and you go, holy crap, we're stuffed. Why didn't somebody tell us? Why didn't somebody warn us? Well, mate, whether you're bloke, Sheila's, I really couldn't care, or whatever's going on, we are telling you. We are telling you now. I've dedicated my life to this. My family basically lost everything to fight this fight. And I'm here to tell you right now, you need to understand and you need to get with the program, because this stuff is real. They are coming for you and you are handing them your life. You're handing them everything they want without a whimper, without any sort of pushback. And this is the majority of Australians. I'm not talking about the freedom fighters. I'm talking about the majority of Australians. And they are just handing over their life. And we hear many people say, well, Australians have had it too good for too long. They need a war. They need to be under fire. They need to know what it's like to actually have to be under threat for your life and fight for your life. Well, yep. And keep in mind, our old mates at the WEF and the UN and the WHO, they talk about, the useless class. They talk about the people who have no value, the people who are the useless eaters. Now, when you start to think about the amount of people who don't want to know or aren't interested, you start to think, well, I won't go down that path. I won't go that way. But let's just say there were many people in 1935, 6, 7 in Europe around, let's just say Germany perhaps. Many people who were warned about what was coming and they didn't want to know about it. So how'd that end up for you? The people who don't want to know, you are going to pay a very, very serious price. And your apathy will cost your families their lives. It is that simple. This is a fight of our lives, for our lives, right now. So this is all part of why I do what I do. This is a part of who I am. This is a part of what I know to be the facts. And it's interesting that, you get into discussions with so many people, and every now and again you'll get somebody who'll argue with you. They'll argue, I don't believe this, I don't believe it. Why would they do that? And then they'll turn around and say something like, well, who are these people anyway? So at that point, you think, so you've just spent the last 10 minutes arguing the point and on something where you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You've got no idea, no clue. You're basing opinions and speaking about something you don't even know who the hell the players are. That is your level of intelligence, that you would argue about something you've got no idea. And this happens all over the place. And people get pretty narky and they'll say it like that. Well, who are these people? Where do they come from? What do they want? Why would they do that? And talk to you in that sort of tone. So I suggest that's why we do the education that we do. This is why we push it as much as we do, is to try and get people to understand. We put together the dot points, the facts, the data, and we are getting more and more people to understand. And as more and more people see our stuff and they tick it off and they go, hell, what you're saying is correct, I can see now. And we need people a lot faster. We need them to do that a lot faster. So that's why we do what we do. That's why I do my style of we shoot straight. We don't tell lies. We don't stuff around. There's enough people who do wishy-washy crap and half-baked BS and, they don't want to tell people something too much. They don't want to say this because I might upset them. I spoke at a thing in Canberra there back in February, and, I was told, oh, Wade, we don't want you as a speaker at all because, you're too straightforward, mate. And people just aren't ready to hear this stuff. And so my answer to that was, so with all the things that are going on, particularly with all that, the disease that was going around the world, and I haven't mentioned that today because, we're going to run out of time, but that is the situation, and you're dealing with these people who just don't want to know. So when they say to me, people aren't ready to hear this, and I say to them, okay, so we've had a whole heap of people took injections and they're dead. They're in the ground. We've got a whole heap of other people who took injections and they are stuffed. That has wrecked them. And we've got a whole heap of people who have lost farms, who have lost businesses, their jobs, their families have been destroyed with everything that the governments have been doing to us. So, just tell me, when are people going to be ready to hear it? When are people going to be ready to hear it? And at every occasion, no one has been able to give me an answer. And at that point, the people who are arguing that case for wishy-washy, half-baked, soft crap go quiet because they've got no answers. Because what they're saying is stupid. It is dumb. And they just repeat and parrot the same idiotic, pointless crap that is designed to dull all this down. And I can tell you right now that a lot of the meetings that Billboard Battalion do and where I speak, people, I'll say to them at the start of the meeting, you know, we shoot straight, we go hard. You're going to get the truth. That's all we do. It's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be upsetting. But that's our style. That's what we do. And if you don't like that, then there's the door. Go. If you don't want to hear it, hard hitting stuff, if you want this wishy-washy, half-baked crap that doesn't give you any warnings or any information, leave. And I can tell you over a year and a half of doing this, we have not had one person ever get up and walk out at that point. None. And we talk over half of Australia. So that's our style. That's what we do. And I say to the people who do the wishy-washy crap, the ones that say, oh, well, you can't say too much because you don't want to upset anybody, okay? With the greatest of respect, you are a part of the problem. The people who say, we can't say this because it's going to upset them, you are a part of the problem. We need you to shoot straight. We need you to take on Billboard Battalion's attitude and our directives, our directions, how we do it, our style. Because that's what Australians need. And it's no wonder that Australians are not waking up and don't want to wake up and they're getting around in some kind of bloody zombified dream world. Because the leaders who should be telling them the truth are not. They're giving them this wishy-washy, half-baked crap, and they're giving them no sense of danger, no sense of urgency. So on those points, I might just pull the pin on that for today. There's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot of very serious and urgent things that need to be talked about. So I'd just like to say to people who gave us their locations, thank you. That is really brilliant. I just love it. That's terrific. As I said, we can't always get back to things. I try the best, but anyway, we just don't have enough hours. So thanks very, very much to everyone for their terrific comments. They are great and I love it. And, you know, so many people look at it. So we've got to keep that up. That's fantastic. Share our stuff around if you can. That's great. We're getting good numbers on our views, good numbers on our shares. So people are obviously resonating with the messaging. And the fact is the messaging is simply the truth. So Diane from Blue Mountains, g'day Diane, how you going there? Jason from Dysart in Queensland, you're welcome, mate. Thank you. It's really, really great to have you on board, mate, and thanks for that. So just remember, we're in the fight. We're here to stay, and we're going to go as hard as we can. But also, what we do, this takes money and resources. You know, we self-fund enormously. So if anybody can kick in some donations and give us a hand with some dough for what we need, get on a Billboard Battalion website. That will be fantastic. Every cent is so much appreciated. So on that note, I think I'll sign off. Wade Northhausen from Billboard Battalion. We're broadcasting here today from Echuca, North Central Victoria, Australia. Thanks very much to everybody. I've got Serena from Nanango. Yep, many other beautiful messages. Thanks, people. All right, well, keep up the fight. Go hard. Go maximum impact. Everything maximum impact. That's what we do. All right, well, thanks very much, people, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow at 12:30. And have a good, safe weekend.